Hi and welcome. I'm Iris Spain, will be your host, and this is my partner in love of my life. Go ahead, you introduce.
Hi, I'm Wayne Percy, and we're here today with Beth Ostrander, who's a specialist in relationships, especially pleasure relationships.
Yeah, so tell us, what does that mean? Like, first of all, I guess introduce yourself, but what does that mean?
Yeah, who cares who I am? What do I do? Hi, and thank you so much for having me. I always love talking with you both, and I love talking about pleasure. I'm a pleasure coach, and I was an accountant, so this is like awesome compared to that. And what does a pleasure coach mean? I think that's what you're asking me. Should I describe like a little bit of what that is? Okay. It's about actually looking for authentic pleasure in every area of your life. And I make sure we zoom in to, the naked kind of pleasure. But I find people through working with my clients or in my workshops that people are actually starved for authentic pleasure. And I make a distinction between authentic pleasure and just every old day pleasure. What we think pleasure should be is usually the other version, right? And authentic pleasure is that kind that is true to you. It's aligned with you specifically, individually. And you hit it when you're totally satisfied and it's delicious and yummy. And I find that people are generally starved, hungry, different variations of hunger for authentic pleasure in their life. And it shows up in generally two ways. Those are extremes, but people come to me and they're telling me that their intimate life is non-existent. If they're single, they're like, I don't have an intimate life, I don't have a sex life. Or they're in couple and it's like, it's not going well, it's not working, it's not happening, that. Or there will be the other parties who say, it often can actually on the extreme show up as depression, anxiety, and there's a lack of vitality in one or more areas of their life, and they're not even really registering the naked, intimate kind of pleasure because it's just so far removed. And some don't even know that they have that sexual bone in their body, right? That can be turned. That's funny. Yeah, I'm glad because I'm like, I say things that I don't even know what I'm saying. Anyway, so that's a bit about what I do. So I support people in various ways around, like, we either one-on-one, but I'm really loving workshops and groups. That's my fave to work in. Yeah, so it's a little bit.
Let me go back a little bit here. Now, what about people who are living on their own? They may have been dating before COVID, but they're not dating right now, or living on their own because of a choice. Does this include them having authentic pleasure?
It so does. It so does. And I had so much fun chatting with you, Iris, ahead of time, like just really getting excited about how there's such an advantage actually for people who are on their own to really find and create authentic pleasure. So some of my favorite clients are those I call lifers in a long-term committed relationship, and they would define themselves as soulmates, or they're truly in love, they're committed. It's not like they're like, I want to kill, well, they might say, I want to kill my person. Yeah, right, like you guys. And yet the area of intimacy, I'm not speaking just sex, I'm saying intimacy is misaligned. And what I find, and this is why I'm saying this for those who are single, to listen into your advantage, what's your advantage here, is that those that are in relationship already, one of the biggest blocks to finding that intimate alignment is that they're collapsing. Most of us, in fact, I'd say anyone I've spoken to, we all collapse this idea of sex life or intimate life into one. And in reality, when you're in relationship, there are three. There's your intimate life, your relationship to your body, there's your partners, and then at some point you came together, right? And so you've got 3, and we collapse these, which causes a lot of challenges to deciphering where are the opportunities to make this awesome? What's blocking us? What's blocking me? What's blocking you? Where are we ping-ponging? Anyway, so I say this to those who are alone right now, whether you're with your partner, have a partner, and then you're separated, I'm in that case, or you are single and you were dating and you're no longer dating, but you wish you were, or you're single and you're actually single by choice, right? You don't want to be dating. You're good right there. You're in an advantageous position, because one of the biggest challenges I have with working with those in relationship, it is very hard to pull apart from the us to actually find the me and my authentic pleasure. Various reasons why. And so that's why I love having this conversation with people who are on their own, because it's the perfect time to do this conversation.
All right, so a lot of our listeners are single. A lot of our listeners are in a relationship where they're married or committed. So what is authentic pleasure? How do they get there? What does that look like? What does that even mean?
Wow.
I like the smile.
Well, whenever I think about authentic pleasure, it actually makes me smile. And that's actually, it's so much simpler than we think. If we just pause, like right now, and it's like the biggest skill, the biggest tool, the most impactful thing to finding our authentic pleasure is to gain the capacity to know right now, what do I actually want? Like right now. Right now, actually, I want water. I didn't take time to go get water. So I would love water. I'm feeling parched. And so I'm going to create saliva, just saying, so that I get what I want. So like right now, each of you wants stuff. You want something, you want maybe space. If you're with a partner and you're in quarantine, you may want space, and just, you may not know it. You may not allow yourself permission, right? And that's the thing. That's the biggest thing around getting authentic pleasure. Oh, see? Did you guys like pause and think, what do I want?
Yeah, I can't escape.
No escaping.
Right. Okay. So then that's the biggest block. So it's like 2-step. I find this journey, whether you're in relationship or alone, is, can I actually give myself permission to want that thing? And we normally don't even allow ourselves to think about it, because it's actually highly irritating to think about something you want, and immediately you have 1,000 reasons why you won't get it or you can't have it. So we just avoid thinking about it.
Yeah, let me add one more. So many of my clients have said, what right do I have to pursue pleasure when so many people are suffering, some are dying? So could you address that?
Thank you. Okay, because this conversation I have all the time. We are in a prime time of crisis. One of my closest people in my world, someone I love, shared with me yesterday in the middle of the night, because they got news from England that their uncle had just passed from COVID. This is a good friend of mine, went through it, didn't know she had it. She's got kids, co-parenting. She sent people back and forth, didn't know that she was passing this along. So then dealing with the guilt and the fear of the finances when you're out, like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. All of us are impacted. Even if we don't know a soul who's personally impacted, most of us are feeling this kind of heaviness for what's going on, this kind of heaviness and unknown. So how on earth, honestly, I question myself probably once a day. Why am I talking about pleasure right now? I really actually, like, sometimes it's in the middle of the night, I'll be like, what am I doing? And then the next morning I'll be like, oh yeah, I got it. And this is why. Pleasure isn't, okay, this is going to be weird, Iris, Wayne. Pleasure isn't about being happy.
You're our friend.
I know. I love you guys. Did everyone love the stupid, awesome picture of Iris and I? I don't know if this crowd got it. What were you dressed up as? Some hero. A hero, I think.
He was Superman, but I was Nefertiti. I was like an Egyptian queen, and you were the pirate, Tess.
Yeah, I was a pirate. Yeah, I was like pirate. Yeah. Is there a pirate S? We should call it that.
Yes.
Anyway. So this is the strange thing about pleasure, because I have been contemplating, like, do I stop speaking about pleasure? Do I tone it down with the pleasure talk? And no, because pleasure isn't actually about happy. So there's two thoughts. Pleasure isn't actually about being happy. It's about being fully satisfied as who you are. And when we are actually our full selves in the world. Okay, so that's one high theory idea. And then let's come down to the ground, okay, for all of those who are like, stop being so idealistic. But then there's also, when we are in pleasure, it's actually helping our automatic system, which goes into stress mode. Like, if there's the sympathetic nervous system is the thing in us that is instinctually, when crisis happens, it's like it's like, okay, I got this. I'm on guard. I'm going to handle this crisis. All right. My uncle died. I'm sick. All right. I've got this. I'm going to do, and you just go into do mode, or whatever you need to do. You got to figure out your finances. All of us, we had to, first week, I'm crying. I'm navigating everything. Like, okay, so what is all this? So that's in do mode. Here's the thing, why pleasure is so essential right now. We have a stress mode or a rest mode. It's one or the other. It's a switch. Pleasure is like knocking on the engineer door of our bodies and saying, okay, it's time to switch off the stress. Because if you don't, you're going to go into overload. You're going to stop being able to focus. You're going to feel overwhelmed. You won't think straight. And you're actually going to start weakening your immune system, which we all know we need a strong immune system right now.
And if you drive anxiety yourself, you drive it far enough, you have an anxiety attack.
Yes.
You can't function.
Yes.
Your body is overwhelmed. So if we can move away from anxiety.
Yes.
And even if we look at the metaphor you're using, when an engine is revving too high in a car long term, you reach burnout.
Yes.
And this is an invitation you're extending and putting words in your mouth. That we have an opportunity to create optimal health and a good immune system by resetting our stress activator.
Mm-hmm. And it's so critical for so many reasons. You really do long-term build up vitality through this. And in this particular time, it'll actually enable you to rest and sleep more. It'll give you clarity. And it's actually simple. It doesn't even have to be long. I was doing these pleasure pods. You guys attended one. And I was saying, if you add 1 minute of pleasure, authentic pleasure, and any old pleasure will help, but when it's authentic pleasure, it goes deep and it happens faster, that rest mode. And if you added 1 minute, you're actually giving yourself a chance to flip. Mm-hmm.
How do I differentiate between what I think is pleasure and authentic pleasure?
Yeah, thank you. Well, there's a way to do it that you don't have to give it too much thought. And there's a way to do it that analytical humans, such as yourself, would enjoy more. So I'll do the analytical one first, because I like to know meaning behind things, and then I'll do the cheater / let's just get it done kind of way, right? So the analytical way is, there's 3 components that I'm pretty clear cover off authentic pleasure. And this is, for me, a journey of always exploring, okay? So 1, does the pleasure align with your core values? Meaning the core values, a lot of you listening, I'm sure, have heard of this. Iris, I know this is important in your work. Core values are what you actually live and die for. Like, they're the things that you will lay your life down for, like whether it's freedom, whether it's health in these times. Like, maybe you're out there and you are one of the frontline healthcare workers. Probably one of your core values is life or something. Okay, so that's a core value. So when you discover, and we can sift it down to like 5 or 6 is really ideal. And there's loads of exercises available on the internet. So aligning your pleasure with your core values, critical. Second, so there's 3 pieces. Second is aligning your pleasure with what I call life's intentions. It's actually from, what's her name? Maureen Nemeth's work on money, energy of money. And she calls it life's intentions. And it's a really great way to grasp who is that higher self inside of me. If I peel away all the gunk, all the beliefs that don't all work for me anymore, and I was like back to like that whole self, who am I? And so you can look at it through life's intentions. Do I want to climb Mount Everest? Let's pretend I do. And if I do, who is the person who is arriving on the, or who even just does that, okay? Even if they don't achieve it. Who's that person? They're brave, they're adventurous, they're strong, right? So then it's like, okay, great. Does my pleasure align with a person that is brave, adventurous, and strong? Do they align with who that being is that's in my higher self version? Okay, so that's the second. And then the third, I'm hoping we have some type system nerds on this call. And by type systems, I mean like Myers-Briggs, Berkman Method, Strengths Finder. Yeah, right? I know. We nerd out on this stuff.
I do have a background in psychometrics.
Love languages. What am I missing? Erotic blueprints, of course. One of the things I'm licensed to coach in. There's all kinds of good stuff. Enneagrams for those who are like soulful minded humans. Anyway, so the third component is, does it align with your pleasure type? And for me, pleasure type is kind of a combo of all of those good things. And if you want to look at erotic pleasure types, then I would recommend erotic blueprints. If you want to look at love, I would recommend love languages, and like get a sense of what's my type. And now for those of you who are like, I hate type systems, do not box me in. Okay, it's not like that. It's like, where am I now? And then what can I expand into? So it's like an awareness of what's my default, what's my turn on, all of that stuff. So that's the intellectual way. Like you can kind of sift through these things. And then if you really like in this moment, wonder, what is it I'm desiring? And then you might be like, oh, like, I don't know, I want Pepsi Cola. I grew up in the era where Pepsi and Coke were like always fighting. And then you're like, do I really want Pepsi, or is it because the advertisement told me? Okay, if you want to talk about like intimacy, do I really want to be snuggled, or is that because that's what women should want? Or do I really want to have an orgasm, or is that because what men should go after? Like there's some things out there that are kind of cliche things, okay? And so then, oh, wait a second, in this exact moment, who am I? What would actually serve me? And so here's and then here's the shortcut way. Shortcut way is, everyone knows when they're like really happy, your voice goes up, your smile comes on automatically. You generally sit up straight, you kind of lean in, you're like, oh, yeah, right? So you can physiologically notice, is it something that's actually authentic to you? And we can also quickly notice that when that's happening, if we're not really engaged sometimes, or we're not open to this idea, like open to like the possibility, we can quickly like tell ourselves that we can't have that very thing, right? Yeah, so long answer.
Well, I was going to say that fits in with the question we got from Jenna. I was like, how do you differentiate authentic pleasure from addiction?
Oh, thank you, Jenna. Oh my gosh, a lot of my humans are very familiar with 12-step, myself included. So there was a really great, I don't know if have you guys seen Deepak Chopra and Oprah's, they do some meditations, 21-day meditations. They did an amazing meditation on abundance. And it was talking through around this idea of desires. And it actually is a 3-week process. And it was interesting to listen to them slowly work up to, yes, if we wake up every day and actually go for our desires, that's when we will actually find full self, full enlightenment, would be like Deepak's way of saying it, right? And along the way in the working up to this conversation, because sometimes it has us balk. We can't have our desires, right? One of the pieces that Deepak addresses is addiction versus desire. And the thing around addiction is it's feeding something that isn't your authentic self. it is actually acting with what I call a pleasure block. And it's like, Iris, let's say you and I we love to dance, right? Wayne, I haven't been on the dance floor with you.
Not
Oh my
yet.
gosh, I just realized that.
Not yet.
No, soon. I mean, soonish.
Part of our core values is dance.
Yeah. Right. And that's probably, I don't know, like spicy, sexy. I don't know what that is, what that core value is for you guys, because that shows up in every area of your life. Look at what you're wearing. You look spicy, Iris, just saying. So all this to say is that if, like, for example, if I was really kind of underneath, like in a hidden kind of way, really wishing I could dance and go out and dance, but I really was at a point where I couldn't allow myself to do this. And I'm going to raise my hand to say I was living my life like that for years and years. I was clinically diagnosed with depression. I used food in an addictive way. That's why I went to 12-step for this. When there's something in you that is a very true desire, but you either, just for whatever reason, it's not like you're always conscious of this, but it's suppressed. Oftentimes it's because of what we grew up in, right? And we just learn to suppress the true desires. And so then what happens is there's something here, but we're not letting it. And usually it's a protective mode, right? It's very much a protective mode we're in. What comes out is there are other kind of seepy ways that desire needs to get fed. And like I was talking at the beginning, when we're starved for pleasure, imagine I always use this vision, it's kind of weird, but a vision of a ravenous fox, starved fox in the middle of winter, can't find food. They're like doing like gnawing behavior. Like, I know it's gross, but sorry, it is gross. When we are starved for pleasure and we are suppressing or being suppressed, often it's us though, suppressing ourselves intentionally or unintentionally, it'll seep out. And it's in the seeping out that it's the inauthentic pleasure that we will try to feed ourselves with. That is what starts to be an addictive nature, because it's never fully satisfying. There is some satisfying, but it's never that fully satisfied. I feel full.
And it's interesting that you talk about that, because we have so many conversations about pleasure. You know, even as you talked about Deepak Chopra and being evolved, there's a lot of conversations about when you're evolved, you shouldn't need pleasure. So can you address that?
We are born for pleasure. My mentor, Jaya May, who created Erotic Blueprints, I studied with her. She's amazing. And she always says, we were designed as pleasure beings. She says it more eloquently. She has a nice phrase for it. But if you look at children, their lives are run by pleasure. They wake up in the morning, like, until they hit a certain point. Maybe they had a life experience or something's going on where they don't want to get up in the morning. They wake up ready to play. They wake up like, okay, what are we going to do today? And parents often suppress that because they just want to sleep a little longer. So we're actually innately designed for pleasure. And here's where, okay, go back to idealist Beth, where I was saying before, not only is pleasure critical right now to help our bodies turn off from that running on stress mode and wearing ourselves out, but our pleasure, that authentic kind of pleasure, I'm telling you, this is super cool. It's actually when we're reaching for authentic pleasure that we allow our true selves to blossom and come out. And this is where Deepak's talking about it. He's like, if you think about it, you wake up in the morning, we're run by pleasure all the time. I desire coffee. I desire to keep sleeping. Even on those crappy days, we're run by pleasure. So I don't know if that answers a little bit. It's a really cool conversation though.
It's a cool conversation, but it sounds like such a simple answer.
Yes. Yes, it is way simpler than we think. Yeah.
All right. So if there was one thing else, did you want to ask a question?
Nope.
Okay. If there was one thing you would hope our viewers take away from today, what would you hope that would be?
Oh, for sure. This. Okay. I'm gonna say it in two ways, because I know some listeners Okay, the first way is if you could give yourself permission for pleasure, permission to even observe yourself around pleasure, not even taking new action, just observe your relationship to pleasure. If you can give yourself permission, I say 1 minute. I often say when you're sitting on the toilet, because we do that every day, or when you're grabbing a glass of water, just pause for a minute. I hope I'm in your head enough that the next time you go pee, or the next time you take a drink of water, I really hope I'm in your head, not in a creepy way, okay, everyone, stop it, but in a good way, in a way like, oh, am I actually experiencing pleasure in my life today? What would bring me pleasure in that next minute? That is what I would welcome. And for those who are really, it's very difficult to give permission for that. Like, honestly, we are in either we're in high protective mode, meaning must protect those I love, so there's no room for pleasure, or we're in high nurture mode, must care for those I love. I would welcome you to think of the classic airplane analogy of the air thing dropping down in front of you. And so I would welcome you who are in high protective mode, high nurture mode. Please protect, please nurture. You're there for a reason. You're in that space for a reason. And if you get burnt out, you can't be there for the whole time you're needed. And so 1 moment of pleasure for yourself a day will literally change the trajectory of your ability to withstand longer time to be in protection mode, longer time to be in nurture mode. So it's that's what I would welcome you to do.
What I'm hearing is that this doesn't have to be complicated. And I can think of an example from last night.
Okay.
Prior to COVID, we had this really nice stew with baked potatoes, or sorry, mashed potatoes. And I think the last time we had it, we sort of ate our way through it at an accelerated pace because we were trying to get, through dinner, get the dishes, and go wherever we had to go. Maybe I was going to my, coach running or whatever.
Yeah.
We had the same meal last night. 3 of us sitting down. We might as well have had candlelight because it took us half an hour to have the same meal instead of 10 minutes. And last night, both John and I, John being Iris' son, commented, this was really good. And I think now because of COVID, we actually took the time to taste it and enjoy it. And, I was sitting there thinking, I really want a third helping. This is pleasurable. I'm enjoying this. I didn't have a third helping, but it's just that kind of consciousness. You were like, be in your head when you're thinking of having a glass of water. Am I enjoying drinking this glass of water, or am I guzzling it just to get a glass of water in me before I run off and cut the lawn or do whatever it is I've got to do next?
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
I was going to say, if I can add to that, for me, the added bonus is having the 2 of them at home. And I can't run off to dance. He can't run off to running. My son can't run off to hockey. And we're all preparing dinner together, peeling the vegetables, emptying the dishwasher, setting the table. There's such a feeling, as much as there's so much bad going on with COVID, but at home, there's a feeling of unity and togetherness and not rushing to get through something to get to the next thing. There's a presence.
It's exactly it.
Even if you're
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Even if you're living on your own and you're sitting down to a meal, light some candles.
I'll speak to the alone. I self-isolated for 2 weeks because I had a grocery incident. I'm fine, I'm healthy, but I had a grocery incident that had me concerned. And because I co-parent, I impact an extended set of humans if we transfer back our kids. And so it was a tough decision. My 9-year-old was not pleased with me, but I chose to self-isolate. So I was alone for 2 weeks. And then when I'm not alone, I'm with my kids. My partner and I are separate, and we need to keep it that way just because of extended family who's involved. And for me, the slowing down, and I'm a pleasure coach, but I'm constantly noticing that my standard of pleasure raises. That's how it happens in the world of all areas of our life. We see that as we learn more, we realize what we didn't know, right? Anyone who studies things, they're like, oh, look how much more there is to learn. So it's the same for me. So in expanding my capacity and awareness of pleasure, same. So I would then take a moment to put my incense. I have incense back here. And to just put that on takes another extra 20 seconds in the morning if I'm going to go downstairs, but it starts to smell the whole house up. And it's just that pause. What would I love right now? Oh, a smell, great. In the shower, taking 1 extra minute in the shower to do nothing purposeful other than to enjoy, whether you love the feeling of your loofah, or you love the hot water, or you love the smell of a special conditioner. 1 extra minute in the shower will honestly change what comes after that shower. So yeah, it's very simple. It is very simple.
I think it's important to note, you are a coach, both on pleasure in the general sense and intimacy, and relationship sense. Everything we've talked about is very general, and we're not talking about sex or intimacy. We're talking about how do people today feel more pleasurable, whether they're home alone or a couple or a small family or whatever. How can we feel more comfortable? How can we have a better day because we have a more pleasurable day?
Yeah, it absolutely. I thank you for pointing that out, because so often, because I do talk about, like, I make sure we zoom in my work around physical intimacy, because it's too often a taboo conversation. So I don't ever want it to get dropped off the radar. So thanks for bringing that up, because 2 thoughts that popped in my brain. I don't know how much time we have, so cut me off if we need to wrap it up. But 2 thoughts that came into my brain. That whole switch, right? The stress mode and the rest mode. Physical intimacy happens in the rest mode. So all of this actually.
Okay, let's repeat that one more time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That switch. We literally are instinctually wired. Like, our bodies are instinctually reactive to be either in the sympathetic nervous system, operating in stress mode, which is needed. Obviously, we need to be able to be on alert. And then the only other option is the rest mode, which is the sympathetic nervous system. And they must be switched back and forth at different, so we don't burn out and we don't sleep out, meaning we don't do anything. And so in the rest mode is where physical intimacy happens. That's where also eating and digestion is happening. If you're in the stress mode, you're not actually digesting. Naturopathic doctors will talk about this often, have conversations with them. You need to actually be in the rest mode for your digestive system to also work. So the rest mode is rest, digest, and sex. Intimacy. It's not all, and when I say sex, I need to say sex is a very broad term in my world. It is how we relate to our body. It is literally, like, as individuals who are on their own, single by choice, single by not choice, in partner and separate, your intimate life, your relatedness to sex and physicality, it is the perfect time to have that conversation, because this journey, sex life journey, began the minute we came out of a uterus, and we then started to exist in the world as physical beings. That's our sex life journey. And so when we're in our rest mode, we can continue that. We can literally, by just holding your hands, you're starting to increase your ability to have pleasure in your body. Like, when I have an awareness, like I'm feeling my hands in a way that normally in my past life I did not. I was very numbed out. So yeah, I kind of went off on my own tangent.
No, I think that's perfect, that we understand that a whole range of pleasure happens in rest. And some of that is healthy digestion. It's having a healthy immune system. It's sexuality, whatever that looks like for you. That there's a whole range of more possibility, if that's English, when we learn to just connect for 1 minute. What's your pleasure right now?
Yeah.
And so for people who want to know more about you, Beth, where can they reach you? Where can they find out more?
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, my website is just about to come up, so I can tell you it's bethostrander.com, but you'll get there and you'll be like, what? Okay, so for right now, it's on Facebook, Beth Ostrander 393, so random, and like .393. And then I also have a meetup group that I'm really enjoying connecting with these days called Soulful Intimacy. So if you broaden your search, because I know meetup groups, meetup.com, really, really amazing stuff happening online all over the world. So if you broaden your search to like include a large area, we're based in the Toronto area, like my group is, but everything's virtual now. So I have people from all over. So coming on to my virtual events, that's probably the quickest way to find me. So meetup group, Soulful Intimacy. It's probably the easiest way. You can always email me at bethostrander.com.
Just a note in the replay.
Yeah.
Will be across the bottom of the screen for everybody as well.
Perfect.
And with that, Beth, I want to say thank you so much for the time you've given us, for the strategies you shared with us, for the difference you make in our lives and the difference you make in the world.
Thank you. I really appreciate that you're even doing this series, because this is a really strange time. And like you said, it is stressful. And yet also, I think we're all, or many of us are also seeing where it is slowing us down to find out what's really important to us, and really appreciating, even if we're on our own, noticing, hey, who are we really missing? Who are we actually missing? How can I find space with me? Am I being connected to myself? It's just a really brilliant time in that way. And there's a lot going on. So thank you for doing this interview series for everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.